Okay, I watched the video I just did. I made a couple of mistakes and I left a couple of things out, so this will be block 2 instructional video on the T1 reticle. First thing I said about the horseshoe, that was for combat accuracy from 0 to 100 yards. Again, the horseshoe is actually for combat accuracy from 0 to 300 yards. Again, by describing how you would use it, either up close, you just put the horseshoe on the man, and as the man gets farther away, you either bracket him or put him in the horseshoe. The bullet hits from the center of the horseshoe to 300 yards. Okay, so that's how it's used. The horseshoe is used from 0 to 300 yards. Key thing about the horseshoe, I forgot to mention, that the horseshoe, the size of the horseshoe is very important to the way it functions. It was designed to be, especially for CQB, where up close and personal, you're going to be either faster than the other guy or you're going to be dead. Okay. And the key thing up close about stopping the other guy from shooting you back is 3 most important factors of stopping power, stopping the guy from shooting you back, is shot placement, and shot placement. So therefore, the horseshoe was designed to be big enough to be fast, but small enough to be precise. Very important to understand that, okay? Also, I didn't mention that this is a BDC reticle, bullet drop compensating reticle, so just to clarify, that's what it is. The wind part of it, if you know your wind leads, for instance, let's say at 500 yards, you've got a 10 mile an hour wind, if you have a Kestrel and you're actually measuring your wind, and you know your drift is about 22 inches, very easy to compensate. You go down here to 500 yards, remember the gap is 10 inches. The dash is 10 inches, so there's your 20 inches right there, just past that. There's your gap for, there's your lead for a 10 mile an hour wind at 500 yards, okay? And remember, you really never know what the wind is anyway. That's just a wild, we just call it WAG, a wild ass guess. It's your best guess, all right? Because you're not going to have, you know, how do you know if it's a 5 mile an hour wind, a 10 mile an hour wind, or so on? Is it a full value wind? That all makes a difference, okay? So the key thing is, like I said, you make your best guess, and then you give a lead, and the key thing is, if you can see the splash or your impact, the miss, then you'll adjust very quickly based on your miss. That's another thing. The way we use this to correct for misses is like this, okay? We refer to all of the dashes. The dashes are referred to as clicks, and the gaps are referred to as half of a click. So for instance, we were out shooting the other day at 1,000 yards, okay? So we're down here on the 1,000-yard line, or I should say the 1,000-yard aiming point right here, and we take the shot. I'm looking through a scope, spotting for my shooter. We both have the same reticle. We both are aiming center mass on the target. 1,000 yards out. He takes the shot, he moves under recoil, so even though if he sees a splash, his reticle is now off target. I do not move. I didn't pull the trigger. So when he takes the shot and the bullet hit down here, so I call his correction very quickly. I tell him, these are referred to, all they are is aiming points, so we refer to them as points. So I tell him elevation, aiming point 10, that's 1,000, 10.2. 10, 1, 2. 10.2, and he goes over 3 clicks, because this is where his bullet hit. 1, 2, 3 clicks. This is where he aimed, and he hit the target on the second shot. That was a 36-inch target at 1,000 yards, okay? So that's how quick it is to correct. The half, like I said, the dashes are referred to half clicks. We do not add them when we're calling correction, so we don't add 1 half, another half. We just go to the last full dash, that's 3, and then if he's going to aim in the gap, we'll call that 3.5 clicks. It's very fast, and remember, again, these are not sniper rifles. The people who are using them are not snipers. So for its intended purpose, for the people and the equipment that it's designed to be used on, it's actually very quick and extremely precise under the circumstances for which it's designed for. Okay, another thing I forgot to go over was dot size. The first dot, the aiming dot in the center of the horseshoe, is 1 MOA dot. The rest of these dots are all half MOA dots for precision. The reason we put the 10-inch hollow circles on the outside, because if we put them on the inside line, center line, they would be overlapping, and you're going to have it's going to cause clutter, and you're going to have a lot more precision at these distances with a half MOA dot than you would with a 10-inch hollow circle. Now, starting at 700 yards, we made the dots 10 inches. The reason being is because the 10 inches is, again, 10 inches, about the size of your head, or it's going to fit inside your chest. And remember, the rifles this is intended for, if you can shoot consistently into a 10-inch circle at those distances under combat conditions, you are doing real well. So these actual larger dots are actually very practical for its intended use. If this were on sniper rifles on a higher magnification, a smaller dot would probably be more appropriate. Okay, another thing, again, these dots in between the 100-yard distances, these are just aiming points. That's all they are, so that you can always have an aiming point on the target instead of aiming up in the air or off to the side. You'll always have an aiming point on the target. It gives you much more precision, much more consistency. I like to call it, it's kind of an oxymoron, but it's like having precision Kentucky windage, okay? All right, and the last thing covered, remember again, this is designed for military. So it's important to understand the difference between a point target and an area target. In the military, a point target was a certain size target that you would expect to hit at a certain distance. For instance, the head. Most guys, especially if you've got an optic with pretty good ammo, pretty good shooter, you're going to do headshots. You're going to hit the head more than you miss it out to, probably at least 300 yards. You take that, so it's a point target, all right? You take that same size target, the head, you put it out at 600 yards, you're going to miss it more than you hit it. You're still going to engage if they're shooting at you, but you're going to miss them more than you hit it. That becomes area target engagement. Now the chest-sized target, upper torso, that's larger. So at 600, 700, 800 yards, that chest is still, that's a point target engagement. Now what we found using our 308s, now this reticle is calibrated for the 16-inch barrel, 1 in 10 twist, using the M118 LR ammo, the military sniper ammo, because it's the most accurate ammo you're going to get. And we calibrated that reticle for this. We found that any of the calibers, the military calibers, 55 grain, 62 grain, 77 grain, 5.56, or the 147 grain M80 ball, or the M118 LR, the 175 grain, out to 500 yards on a chest-sized target, you aim center mass, you're going to get a hit somewhere. Okay. After that, you need to know your drops a little more because your impacts start to spread. But the 77 grain out of a 5.56 77 grain, out of a 1 and 7 twist 16 and 14.5 inch barrel, especially the 16 inches, it matches up very closely to this ballistics, this BDC reticle that was actually designed for the 308. Okay, we're getting effective range, and in the military we have that term effective range. That was where you hit the target more than you miss it. This is a human upper torso target. So you fire 5 shots. We always do 5-shot strings when we're testing this. You've got to hit the target 3 times. We consistently have been able to establish effective range out to 1,000 yards using this reticle on our 16-inch 308 rifles on human-sized targets, and there's photos up on my website and everything else showing that. Okay, we've gotten area target engagements to 1,200 yards with the same reticle, same ammunition, everything. 1,200 yards area target engagement, not effective range, not more hits and misses. And with the 77 grain, we're getting effective range out to, that's the 5.56, 800 yards, point target engagement, and 1,000 yard area target engagement. Okay, so be very clear on that, that's not a maximum effective range at that range with a 5.56, but for area target engagement, we're getting hits. We're more misses than hits, but we are getting hits on human-sized targets to 1,000 yards. So again, that gives you a little more understanding of this reticle and when you're using it with the different rifles and different ammunition. So that'll cover that. I hope we covered a few more points and give you a better understanding of how this works. Thank you very much.